You guys, today we have two very, very special guests with us today, who I had the privilege of chatting with last week. And Andrew Van Buren is a master of change. He attended 5 different grade schools and moved 25 times before he graduated college. Today, he's a gunshot survivor, an embarrassingly large Utah Jazz fan, and a loving husband and a father of 4. Andrew is the founder of investment and wealth service firms Norden Group and Aventus Wealth. He is currently building PathU, which is a financial literacy platform for high school and college students. Also joining Andrew on the stage today is Treu. Cameron is a 43-year-old Aries from Heber City, Utah, and is the owner and founder of Bam Bam's Barbecue in Orem. Cameron has been married to his wife, Ashley, for 17 years. They have 4 amazing children, 3 dogs, and they reside in Highland, Utah. Cameron barely graduated from Wasatch High School. He did not go to college and is loud and proud about his ADHD. He loves all things sports and is a proud supporter of BYU athletics. His passion, however, is barbecue and the amazing customers and friends he gets to serve it to every day but Sunday. Cameron also loves to share his barbecue knowledge, and over the last 11 years has taught his Barbecue 101 class to thousands of people in over 30 states and in 3 different countries. Cameron also has consulted for multiple restaurants, retailers, and manufacturers in the barbecue space. So please give a warm welcome to Cameron and Andrew. Perfect. Is everybody set? Are those on for you?
Yep. Hello?
Yeah. Perfect. Welcome to the Blue Couch. Welcome to Rev University. We're glad to have you.
We can.
Are you guys comfy? Do you need to switch?
This is
swap?
comfy.
Okay, good.
I don't fit on a lot of couches. This is nice.
It's a nice couch.
Yeah.
I always get stuck on the chair, but enjoy the couch over there.
Okay.
Okay, so you're both prominent entrepreneurs. Cameron, you're the owner of Bam Bam's Barbecue, which is a nationally award-winning barbecue joint. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's the story of Bam Bam's? What's the journey been like from day one until now?
Ooh, it's kind of a long story. I was watching TV. I was watching hockey games. I think it was 2009 or 10. Big hockey fan. And I flipped through the channels and landed on a show called Barbecue Pit Wars, or Pit Masters at the time. And it covered these guys that traveled all over the country on the weekends cooking and competing in barbecue. So you mentioned the ADHD thing. Like when I find something that I want to do, it just like everything shuts off. So I went to Lowe's that night. It was February in Provo, foot of snow on the ground, and I bought a $50 smoker. And the next day I was smoking ribs. Like I didn't even grill. Like I'd never really cooked. And it just took me. So for the next 3 years, in a nutshell, I started a little company called CND Marketing. I moved to Arizona to expand it, but in Arizona, barbecue was even bigger. So I was cooking 3 or 4 days a week in my backyard for no one other than just my family. I was on YouTube. I was buying books. I was loitering at this big barbecue shop in Tempe, Arizona, like every day, which I then ended up selling my company, or my half, taking a $10 an hour job at said barbecue store, and started competing on the weekends, and ended up cooking and eventually beating a lot of the guys that were in that TV show that I originally watched. And so competed all over the country, did really, really well, and ended up bumping into who I consider my mentor named John Lewis from Austin at a barbecue comp, and he invited me to move into his house in Austin and learn from him. I mean, this is like Michael Jordan calling you to live in his house to come and learn free throws, right? Like, it was crazy. So my wife...
That was the basketball reference. That was good.
Thank you. Yes. I can't use hockey references here, probably. But anyway, my wife was super supportive, and I left 2 little kids. My wife at home, moved to Austin for 6 months. Again, made $10 an hour. I literally worked between 80 and 90 hours a week, but learned from the best, and came home after 6 months and got a $50,000 loan from a family member and opened Bam Bam's in 2013. So opened it for $48,000. So pretty cool.
Round of applause for Bam Bam's.
Thank you.
And Andrew, you're involved in many a things, but a big part of your career has been in the finance industry. Talk to me about the firms you're starting, and then we'll dive into PathU.
So yeah, I spent my whole career. I was the kind of the guy growing up. Like I would go on family vacations and I was taking like money books. Like people would make fun of me, but like that's what I was reading for fun. I've always been fascinated by like the rules of money. Like I always loved talking to people and learning how they were successful. And so it was, I don't know, it was just something I always really enjoyed doing. And so yeah, I started my career and convinced a couple buddies, and we started our firm, and we officed down at Sleepy Ridge. I'd like to say my record was I golfed 16 days in a row, which was awesome. And that's how we got our business off the ground. Was I still remember the first deal we closed like on the golf course. I came home, I was like, hey, I finally made it in the business world. Like I closed a deal on the course. I can officially say that that was work. It was awesome. But no, I love money and finance. PathU has come because the truth is like education in the world of finance are two of the most like broken industries out there. You come into it and you have all of the aspirational ideas and hopes of helping people, and then realize really quickly that there's a business side of it. And so you have to find people that have a ton of money. And yeah, you can do really cool stuff for them, but like you're not really impacting their life that much. You know, like you can do really cool stuff, but at the end of the day, whether you do or don't, it doesn't really impact them. And so Path was born with this idea of how can you impact the most amount of people as early as you can to change the trajectory of their life. So Kobe Bryant had one of the best quotes ever. He defined greatness as you do something that makes someone else become great, that then they do something that makes someone else become great, right? So you impact multiple generations. And so that was the idea with Path is if you get someone and you can teach them really basic concepts, you can change just slightly, but over time and generations, it will change them forever.
I think that's wonderful. Round of applause for PathU.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should clap for each other, but we'll work on it. We'll give you more opportunities. Wonderful. Talk to me about your challenges that you have separately faced as entrepreneurs, building your own businesses and scaling and selling and all of the entrepreneurial things.
Me first?
Go for it.
Okay. I would say one of the biggest things, and we were just joking about it like 2 seconds ago, is the whole idea of imposter syndrome. So in the world,
We still have it,
yeah,
both of us.
for sure. In the world of finance, like when I got started, like I mean, I was young to the industry and I had a baby face, like so I looked even younger, and so I always felt like I had something to prove. You know, you're sitting down with people that are older than you, more successful than you, have more money than you, and you're supposed to tell them what to do with everything, right? Like that was hard to overcome. Like that was originally, funny enough, like why I grew out, like I guess you can call this a beard, with the hair on my face. I was trying everything I could to look older, like everything I could to look old.
That's why you bought the Buick.
Yeah, for sure. I still have it today.
It's an excellent vehicle.
And so that's always been something that, you know, you struggle with, that who am I? Like because if you look hard enough, you can always find someone more successful, more experienced, more money, better looking, whatever it is you want to say, you know, and they're always out there. So you have to find that confidence in kind of what you do and the value that you're providing. And so that was something that I've always had to kind of face, I guess.
Okay.
That's a good answer. Oh, there's been lots of struggles. I think the stuff that, you know, it's really easy to fall into the trap of just seeing people's success, especially in the social media age, right? Like my marriage almost ended probably, I think we're at 3 times now because of barbecue. Like, I know that's very honest, but it requires a lot of time. And like I said, I kind of hyper-focus on things that I really love doing. Moving to Texas, that was a really hard one, right? Especially for the family. But As far as an entrepreneur goes, I think the hardest thing is just always, like, the struggle for me is just never knowing, like, when that phone call is going to come. It can happen anytime, anywhere, midnight, 1 a.m., whether it be a flood, whether it be a busted pipe, whether it be 2 employees not showing up. I think that that's probably the toughest part, is it will always be you that has to fix it, right? But I mean, for me, I think the hardest struggles that I have faced as far as my business goes have been recently. And it's employees, which it is so hard right now. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you pay. It doesn't matter how flexible your hours are. Like, people just don't want to work. It's wild. I mean, I'm paying 16-year-olds like 17, 18 bucks an hour right now. And they're horrible workers. Anyway. But so that's really hard. And then in my industry, where it's such a commodity-driven space, beef prices right now are crazy. I'm almost 60% higher just for beef than I was a year ago. And 80% of my transactions have beef. And it's nuts. So COVID was a whole nother thing, but just being able to be fluid and be creative, ask for help, that's kind of saved me. But ultimately, if you own a business, especially a small business, it's always going to come back to you. And that's probably overall been my biggest struggle.
Yeah. Well, I think with everything coming back to you as an entrepreneur, it really calls on your entrepreneurial spirit that is within you, right? That I feel like every entrepreneur does have. So where did yours come from? Where did you initially find or get that little spark of entrepreneurship in your life?
Go for it. Okay, that's good.
We're good. I don't know, honestly. My dad he's a general contractor. So I guess he was always his own boss, and maybe that was part of the influence. All I ever did was sell things before barbecue. I mean, I sold hot tubs, RVs, cars, pool tables. I sold alarms for 9 years, door to door, like every Mormon kid in Utah. I thought I'd be in sales the rest of my life, but I don't know that I ever really had this overwhelming sense of I want to own my own business. Until I found something that I really loved doing and had a lot of fun doing. And it wasn't so much that I wanted to own my own business as much as I wanted to keep doing barbecue. And to do that and make enough money to support a family, it pretty much had to be my own restaurant. And so, but that's about as deep as that answer gets.
I think it was just something inside of me. Like, I have a picture in my office of me at 6 years old. I'd built like a legit lemonade stand and called the Snack Shack. And I mean, so at 6, I was out selling whatever I could. And I mean, same as Cam, I've never had an hourly wage. I've never been an employee before. For me, it was always, I don't know why, but I just trusted myself more than somebody else. And so I'd rather bet on me than bet on someone else. And I really like doing things that other people say can't be done, or if they say you need to do it this way, like, it is a personal goal to do it differently. And so, like, hey, to graduate high school, you need to go to class. I was like, watch. No, you don't. Hey, to graduate college, you need to do homework. I'll bet you I don't. Right? And you can find these different ways to accomplish the same end goal. And so that's always been something that I've had, and it's so much fun to kind of experiment and figure out what works and what doesn't.
So the two of you seem like you just mesh very well, that you're very good friends. So how did you two meet? Aw.
This is what our guests do whenever, like.
That's true. Whenever we have 2 female guests,
It's always this.
they always touch. Like,
It's
stop.
helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it now.
Builds trust.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Yeah. So we're brother-in-laws, believe it or not.
Okay.
So he married my wife's little sister, and yeah, I mean that's how we met. And we've always just gotten along. He's the most chill person you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I don't think anybody doesn't like Andrew. He's just a mellow dude, but that's just because his brain's always moving. He's smarter than most of us in here.
We have a lot of fun. It's super easy. So it's really natural. It's not hard at all. And we're super different, which I think makes it fun, right? Like, that's what's made Nitty Gritty so much fun, is seeing it from two perspectives. Organization versus not organization.
I was just going to say
fun versus serious. You know,
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of differences that we are super different, but then we're really similar in a lot of other ways as well. And so it makes the dynamic a lot of fun.
So you have a good balance, which we hear come out on the podcast in the way you host and the way you interview. Tell us about Nitty Gritty. Where did the idea come from? What sparked the interest, and what's the premise of the podcast?
So Nitty Gritty was born. There's a book called The Third Door. So if any of you haven't read the book The Third Door, I highly, highly recommend it.
I will second this. They
Yes.
told me this last week, immediately downloaded, and have been listening to it on audiobooks.
And you need to listen to it because the author narrates it. So you need to hear him
Fantastic.
tell the stories. But really, really quickly, so this guy, he was an immigrant, and the American dream for his family was for him to become a doctor. So he was pre-med at USC his freshman year and hated school, just absolutely hated it. And for whatever reason, his buddies, they made a list in a closet of names of professors. If they were to create like their own school, like who would teach them? And I mean, they swung for the stars. It was like Lady Gaga, Steven Spielberg, Warren Buffett. I mean, like, that's who they thought would be cool to be their professors. And the premise of the book was, I mean, he was a freshman in college, so everything was around nightclubs, right? So he's like, when you go to a club, there's the first door, everyone waits, the line is long, it wraps around the building, it's out into the street. That's where everyone waits to get into this club. There's a second door, all the rich and the famous kind of have their own entrance, right? They get kind of ushered in that second door. But what he said was there's this third door always. He's like, now you might have to run down an alley, jump through a window, sneak in the kitchen. But he's like, there's always a third entrance into that club. And the book is, he found a way to hack The Price is Right, won the Showcase Showdown. It was a big sailboat. He sold the sailboat, and over the next 7 years, he met and interviewed every person on his list, and he said they all found success through what he calls the third door. So I read this book. It was so good. And by the end of the book, I was like, oh, I want to do that. But I was like, I can't. Like, I'm married. I have kids. Like, because part of his thing was he would meet someone, and they would say, oh, if you want to meet, you name it. Oh, they're in Europe this week. I have a friend who can get you in. So he was on a plane. He was in Europe, and then he was in L.A., and then he was in New York. I was like, I can't do that. So I was like, oh, I like talking to people. I know people that are pretty fun and interesting. And so I actually called Cam. I was like, hey, here's my idea. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm just going to talk to people. I have no idea why. There's no reason behind it outside of having fun. And I'm going to do you first because I'm probably going to screw up, and I don't care because you're my brother-in-law. And so if it goes really bad, we can do it again and again and again until we get it right. And so he asked the same thing, like, well, why? I told him about the book, and like the next day he read the book. Like in one day he listened to the whole thing.
I trimmed a lot of meat that day.
And he comes to me, he's like, hey, I'm going to do this with you. I was like, I do what with me? He's like, we're going to do the podcast together. We're going to do it here in my office. I was like, even better, let's go. And that was how Nitty Gritty was born.
Amazing. And how's the experience been so far?
So much fun. We don't make a dime doing it, but that's really our own fault. I mean, we have the listeners to do it, but we actually have to go out and get sponsorships, and that's hard.
So if any of you want to help with that, come talk to us. We're very happy.
Especially if your customer base is female-driven. We got a show for you.
It's weird. Like, we just kind of fell into, like, female entrepreneurs, and I think 85% of our listeners are all women. I mean, Shari came on.
Yes.
Shari's is a great episode, by the way.
It is. You need to
That
listen
is one
to
of
it.
the most fun episodes ever.
But yeah, it's
Found my
funny
twin.
because most women like kind of stick together, and it's like the He-Man club, right? They hate men. And so, like, women go on women podcasts and women talk about men and they only go to women events, right? Like, that's a whole thing right now. So to get these women entrepreneurs to come on and have two dudes talking to them, it's a very different dynamic. But we've met people that we have no reason to be talking to them.
Yeah, no.
And we can call them, like, really good friends now. Like, at the end of every episode, it's hard because we're legit friends with our guests. And it's like, well, I want to hang out with you. But, like, it's hard to hang out with all of the people that come on. But I want to because we're really good friends with them all by the time we're done.
So this is like your least favorite question.
Oh, you're not going to ask me my favorite episode.
When I'm going to open another Bam Bams?
Yeah.
That's my least favorite question.
Oh.
So don't ask that.
Oh, okay. No. Okay, not your favorite episode. What's an episode that, holds space in your mind when you reflect on the podcast?
About this one. That's a really hard one. One, because I have poor memory. Two, because there's been a lot of really good ones. I'll just pick recent. She's been on twice. Jess Toolson, the CEO of Mixers. We were the first podcast to have her on. And I think the first time she came on, just shy of 2 years ago, it was just, Mixers was just kind of a side business for her. Her husband traveled he played pro basketball in Europe.
Oh yeah, she wasn't sure if she was going back to Europe. Like he hadn't retired at that point.
Right. And so she was doing about $15,000 a month in revenue, which, I mean, for a side business, stay-at-home mom, like half the time she's in Spain. Awesome, right? So we had her back on, I think, a year and a half later. And, this is all during COVID, right? And I mean, this is one of the most like happy, energetic, like genuine people you'll ever meet. And Susan Peterson, who's a very good friend of ours, and has probably given us half of our guests.
The Godfather.
The Godfather, we call her. She was there with her that day, just for fun. Susan's probably been on 6 of our podcasts. But she just dropped that she did $1 million in revenue. I'm like, you did $1 million this year? And Susan goes, she did $1 million this month. Beep. And I remember, like, I got emotional. It was weird. Like, I started, like, kind of crying just because, like, I could just see the energy coming out of her, like, how proud she was and how happy she was. And to have somebody that just, like, kind and pure and just, she is a unique individual. But to have her do that and accomplish that in COVID, and it's like she's so passionate about, like, there's been so many episodes that have really, really affected me and have really, really helped me. But that's the most recent one that was just like, man, I love doing this. And it's funny, I catered for Mixers just 3 days ago. And it's the first time I've ever walked into a business and had like 20 women standing there clapping for me when I walked in the door. It was awkward, but it was really cool. Like that place, it's funny, you walk into that place and it just screams Jess Toolson. So it's really neat what she's built. So, yeah.
That's really cool.
I don't know that I have an episode because there has been so many. My favorite thing about the podcast is it really challenges me. So we've been able to talk to people that really challenge maybe a belief that I had or a way of thinking or something that I once thought that I knew. And it's given me an excuse to really get to know the person on the other side. Yeah. And so my favorite things are when I can walk away from a podcast and be like, that was very, like, we try to talk about really uncomfortable stuff, which is kind of funny. Like, we try to have really awkward conversations. Like, we had a sex therapist come on, and she gave us a grocery list of all the anatomical names of the body. And she's like, say them. And we're like, okay.
I yelled them.
I said every one of them.
Yep, we were into it.
And so, like, that kind of stuff, or whether it's religion, when the whole George Floyd thing went down, we had Yehosh and another buddy come on, and we had
Tim Drisdom.
Yeah, it was like a 4-hour episode about race that I just didn't know. Like, we had Let's Talk Sis come on and, you know, followed up with that kind of stuff. And so all of these conversations that I wouldn't have, people that I wouldn't have met outside of the podcast, and it's given me the opportunity to sit down and really understand and appreciate differences, right? Like, not that you're trying to be convinced of something as much as you're just trying to appreciate their perspective and their life. And I can appreciate that and acknowledge it, and that's okay, right? Like, that doesn't make me bad or doesn't make me different. Well, it makes you different, but that's what's good about it. And so it's so much fun to have those types of conversations. The business stuff is easy. Like, there's been so many fun entrepreneurs that have come on that the school of YouTube has brought them where they are. I mean, every story, the imposter syndrome is real. Like, they had no idea what they were doing. They had no business starting a business, and they didn't have a plan to become who they were, right? Like Susan, when she cut that leather and broke the glass out of the window to make a pair of moccasins, she had no idea that she was going to become the Godfather, you know? And so that's probably the most fun to me, is talking to people and having an excuse to get to know them on a kind of a personal level.
And I know you guys mentioned that a big part of the podcast is being able to meet different individuals and learn how to do business in different and sometimes better ways, and how to create and live lives of impact. So as you reflect on the episodes and the interviews that you've done, what are some tips or what's some advice that you have for entrepreneurs in general to live more lives of impact and to do better business?
I think the word passion is overused. But I think that's a really good way to explain it. Or Jerry Seinfeld actually talked about this with Howard Stern, wasn't it? That podcast you told me about. He said, if you love something, you're willing to do more than anyone is willing to do for that. And I think a lot of us call that passion, like find what you're passionate about. But a very common thing with business owners is they love what they do so much. The reason they're successful is because, one, most of them did it for free to start, and they would still do it for free today because they absolutely love it. And so that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean they don't work hard. What it means is they absolutely love the process, and that's what's brought them the success. And so you can feel it too. Like, you can literally, when someone sits down, we can tell when the episode's going to get good because, like, the energy changes, like their eyes change. Shari was a really good example of it.
Great example of it.
Like, all of a sudden, like, they start going like this. They get on the edge of their seats, and their hands start going like this, you know? And so you can tell once you've found what it is that they love. And I would say that's the number one thing I would tell someone is don't focus on the money. So my favorite book ever, The Go-Giver. So Go-Giver is 1, Third Door is 2. So Go-Giver, go read that one. But he says, how do I make money is not a bad question in business. It's just the wrong first question. So the first question is, how do I create value? Second question is, how can I make money? As long as you can answer the first question, second question will take care of itself.
I love that. Sorry, did you want to add?
I didn't answer. I was quiet right there because I was wanting her to go to the next one. So there is also another recurring theme, and I think both of us have said that we can relate. Most people that start a business have no idea what the hell they're doing. Like, even the most like legit CEOs in town that you think are just brilliant people, they'll even admit they still have to Google things, right? I would say that 90% of starting a business is, 1, just loving what you're doing and doing it. 2, doing stuff like this. Like, so much of what I've been able to do with the restaurant has been from my skills and just, I don't even like calling them skill. I just like people. I just like getting to know people and making friends, and 9 times out of 10, whether it's a problem or a need or whatever else, there's always somebody there that can help you with it. And so the more that you just treat with people with respect, help them out when they need help, they'll be there for you. The second one is the money thing. I was broke as a joke for 5-6 years leading up to, like Coinstar broke, right? Like putting the quarters in the grocery store to pay the electric bill. I've got some really crazy stories about just those moments where it's over, but then some little miracle happens. Like you have to be willing to, like you said, do it for free, like Go Giver said. And that's why most people can't be entrepreneurs. Those of us with the superpower of ADHD, we don't assess risk like other people. Like I open the restaurant, it's like, this is going to be great.
Let's start a podcast. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great. Like there's no way this will fail. Horrible location, very little money, everybody and their dog telling me 80% failure rate. But what else was I going to do? I loved it. And so it's a very, very recurring theme with the podcast is you don't need to know what you're doing. You just need to do it.
And that's it, right? Just doing it.
That's it.
Like even with the podcast.
Totally. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. We probably,
still
don't have sponsors.
But like most podcasts get through 4 episodes and they're done. Like that's the average length of a podcast is 4 episodes.
And how many episodes you're at now?
Like 125, I think. So my goal starting, because, thank you. When we started, they all said the hardest thing for a podcast is pressing record. I was like, well, I can do that. I'm stupid enough to press a button, you know? And then for some reason we started, like, I wouldn't let us not get an episode for 100 weeks. Like it
was annoying.
It was a goal in my head. I was like, we're not going to miss a week. So we hit 102 weeks in a row through COVID and all in person.
We got COVID on one podcast.
Yeah, we had a guest give us both COVID.
That guest shall remain nameless.
But that was our thing. I was like, we're going to do it. Like people don't do that, so we can do it. And so we hit 100 episodes without missing, and we've taken some breaks. We're on a break right now.
Yeah, we're on a break, and it's wonderful.
We were on a break.
But I'm ready to start again.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, that's the thing is just doing the work. Like you got to do the work.
Well, that shoe dog, is that what it's called? Like, I mean, just do it. It's like when you say just do it, I mean, Nike stole it, but they earned it. But if you haven't read that book, it's the perfect, just do it. I mean, that's.
Sorry, which book is that again?
Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
Great. I need this full
We're
list.
going to get you all these books by the time we're done.
Seriously, thank you. Appreciate it. Cam, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I would love to dive into more of the balance that you two have been able to find as far as work life and home life, family life and business life, right? And you're both very much involved in 2 very time-consuming things. Andrew, probably more than 2. You've gone on many ventures. So dive into what has helped you find that balance with your family to keep that relationship strong as you build businesses.
Oh, man. So the first couple years of Bam Bams, I had no choice. Like it was 18 hours a day. I was the manager, the cook, the janitor. It was everything. And I think in the beginning of most businesses, that's just how it's got to be, especially when you don't have money to pay a bunch of people. But now I'm kind of on this opposite side, and it's funny. I'm right in the middle of it now where if you look at Bam Bams from the outside in, you're like, man, he's trained people great. He's delegated. He can be hands-off and just trust his staff. And I've done a really good job. Like I've had some really, really good. My core group has been with me since almost the beginning of the restaurant. But I can leave for a month, and it's just fine. But it's interesting because now I'm in this weird, like, I'm starting to feel kind of worthless. Like I should be working. What should I be doing? And it's this funny thing where you're like, no, you should be proud of what you've built. You worked hard to get here. You have awesome staff. But yeah, it's hard to get rid of that mentality of like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? Open another Bam Bams. Do this, do that. So I'm always kind of doing this back and forth of trying to be like I love going to all my kids' games. I love that I get to do that. And so I don't know. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we have this hard time of allowing ourselves to be content with where we are. So
Bigger is not better.
Yeah, bigger is not better. Like, I've already opened a second location and closed it. I mean, I didn't really have to close it. The lease ended, and it just wasn't. We took over a lease in Spanish Fork, and when the 2 years ended, it was just like, we just break even, not really worth it. Just close it. But of course, everyone else, it looks like a failure. I don't really care about that. But again, it took a lot more time. I was writing checks from Orem to pay for Spanish. So it doesn't necessarily, bigger isn't always better. And I love the freedom that I have. And so for me, if I don't either love what I'm doing or have a deadline or some sort of pressing, like the sink exploded or a pipe burst, like get over here and help, it's really easy for me to just kind of want to be with my fam. And so I don't really struggle to find the balance. My struggle right now is kind of the opposite, is should I be doing more in my work life with my free time? I'm only 43. So anyway.
So old.
It is old. I feel old. But I will say I was up till like 2 a.m. scouring barbecue websites last night. Like, I miss a certain style of cooking that I did in Texas. And so there are some things starting to kind of ruminate, and we'll see. But, it's a fun position to be in. But it's funny, like, if you're super busy and you can't find balance, I think you've said it a few times, like, there's no such thing as work-life balance. Like, it's a term that doesn't really, it's not real. I mean, you have to do what you have to do, especially if you're supporting a family, right? But anyway, it can go either direction. You just have to kind of find your happy spot.
I could talk about this for a long time. I don't believe in work-life balance. I heard someone say work-life harmony, and that really hit with me, because when you think of balance, you think of a scale, right? And so if there's 5 pounds over here, you have to have 5 pounds over here to balance out that scale. And so too often I think we think of work-life balance as like hours on both sides between work and family. And so it's like, hey, if I work 10 hours here, I'm supposed to do this, right? And so you always are using the word should, which is my least favorite word. Like, no one should ever use the word should. Like, either do or don't, but don't should anything, right?
I think I just said it like 19 times.
Yeah. And so, like, the work-life balance, you have to find, like, what you're, and there's a time and a season for everything. If you're starting a business, it's going to require more, right? Where I'm at now, I've been super blessed that now whatever like opportunity I look at, I actually just reverse engineer it. So Richie Norton just wrote a book called Anti-Time Management. It's awesome. It goes against every time management book you read, but it's all about what kind of life do you want and make the business fit into that, right? So it's like, if I want to be at an 11 o'clock school play because that's where I want to be, then my business better allow for that, right? Like, what's funny, so I love golf. I will only golf during the day. So if you're going to golf with me, you better be in a position to golf while you're supposed to be at work. I don't golf at nights, and I don't golf at weekends. That's my family time, right?
And you won't sit above the 10th row at a Jazz game. Just
Stop.
in case any of you want to invite him.
And so there's a lot that goes into this work-life balance. I had a business coach talk about like efforted action and inspired action. And I think too often we put so much effort into trying to make something happen, but when it's supposed to work, you get this inspired action, and then it just goes, right? Like, if you ask better questions, you get better answers. And so that's what I challenge people when they say they don't have work-life balance. I'm like, well, ask a better question, right? And then you're going to find that better answer.
This is why I do the podcast, actually. I just realized that. Like, he just answered all my questions, all my little struggles I was just telling you guys about. I feel way better now.
You
that was
and me
awesome.
both.
Man.
That's fantastic. Okay, so as you guys look forward into the future, and as you reflect on what you've learned in the podcast, as you've interviewed different guests, what are some of the opportunities on the horizon for entrepreneurs?
What are the opportunities for entrepreneurs? I think we're living in the greatest time ever because literally anything is possible right now. Like technology has opened up the door. Social media, I mean, the fact that you can start a business and market yourself on social media for free. I mean, so many of our podcast guests that have built unbelievable businesses that have sold for tens and hundreds of millions of dollars started because they threw a post up on Instagram, right? Like it costs absolutely nothing. Now, once you get going, that's different, right? But I think that it's the best time ever. And I think technology has continued to evolve and we're getting introduced to new ideas that there is not a shortage, and it doesn't require anything. Like I went to school, I graduated from college. I don't think that's super important, to be quite honest with you. I know that's
Yes.
you know, like you don't need to have an Ivy League degree or an MBA to be a really successful entrepreneur. You just don't. And if your dream is to make $1,000 extra a month so you can go to Target, like how many of our guests said that? Their whole business
And now they're
was
millionaires.
they're like, I wanted to go to Target and not feel bad for what I spent. And that's why they started their business. Like, if that's what you want, then own it. Like, my wife, she's a dog breeder. She wants to be able to spend money that she doesn't feel bad about. So she started breeding dogs, and she doesn't want to be huge. She doesn't want to be a multimillionaire in that world, and that is okay, right? And so I think being true to who you are and finding out who you are will open up the door to so many opportunities. You just got to be willing to do that.
I don't like it when you go first. You have such good answers. So dumb. I'm not dumb. I'm smart. Okay, so I think he's right. The Seinfeld interview on Howard Stern. I love Howard Stern, by the way, but it was so true. I don't think it matters what you want to do. If you really love doing it, you're going to outwork everyone else that does it, which generally means you're going to do better at it than everyone else. And it doesn't matter if you want to paint walls. It doesn't matter if you want, like, there really isn't anything that you can't do. I mean, this whole NFT thing.
Don't even get me going down that rabbit hole.
I'm just saying, like,
We
now
can be
you
here
can
for a
make money
long
doing
time.
that. Like, what can't you make money on? So it's like, how many businesses were start like Susan Peterson, like recycling old throwaway windows to start a business? Like, start small, but there really isn't anything you can't do, especially with technology. The reach that we have now really is limitless.
I would say too, like, the community is never better. Like, I think the old school mentality of like it's kill or be killed is going away, and maybe Utah's super unique for that, but like the community of successful entrepreneurs willing to help is absolutely insane. Like, if you have any questions, just ask. Like, how many guests have come out because we just said, hey, can you come hang out for a minute? They have no idea who we are, and they're willing to sacrifice a couple hours of their time just because we asked, right? Like, so don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, people are key. I would say that's your most important resource. I mean, almost every single person we've talked to, ourselves included, have somebody that they consider their mentor, right? Somebody that has been there, done that, and can help you. And successful people want to help other people be successful.
Because someone helped them.
Right. And so this stuff is so cool. You know, in the business I work in, this type of thing is kind of foreign to me. But in the few occasions where I've been invited to speak at these things, it's like being here is your first step, because how many of these people in this room are the next Ryan Smith? You know what I mean? And who knows, you make friends at this little Rev Road listening to two podcasters, and you may have somebody that can float you $2 million to start your next thing 10 years down the road. You just never know. So, you know, be genuine.
Was that an offer? to
Be
someone?
helpful. No. Well, unless I know a guy. But yeah, I think people are our greatest resource, not only for support and help, but yeah, ego can get in the way. And
Not people, relationships.
relationships, right? I mean,
real relationships.
and that's asking for help. I think, especially with entrepreneurs, right? Generally, they're pretty smart, stubborn people. But if you can't learn to ask for help, you're not going to get there. So, yeah.
So I want to open it up for audience questions in just a second. But before we do, tell us what's next for Bam Bams, what's next for Path U, and of course, what's next for the Nitty Gritty.
Bam Bams, we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to find that. I'm really obsessed with making pizza right now. That's my thing. Just got some pizza ovens, so who knows? But
A salad.
okay. It's funny you say that. That mixer's job was pretty crazy. And they made a salad, so I don't have salad at Bam Bam's. So when I cater at mixers, they brought a big bowl of, I think they call it lettuce. And yeah. And we've done it a few times, especially when I feed NBA players. They're the most high maintenance athletes, if anybody was wondering. But I think I might actually do a salad now. Yeah, I need more girls in the restaurant. They're better customers, and I need more female employees if anybody's looking for a job, because they're better workers and they're smarter than boys. So yeah, salad might be next, but I really miss.
What are we gonna call it? Can we name it right now?
No.
Oh.
No.
Let's name it.
If you guys can think of a name, let me know after. But I really miss the old style form of cooking that I did in Texas, which is just all fire, no gas assist. And so I might be kind of moving back to that. It's a little more expensive, but yeah, I miss that. I miss that side of it. And so as far as Bam Bam goes, maybe a couple menu things, and there might be some trucks coming. That's probably my next move. But other than that, that's it. I should probably do a good website. I haven't really done that yet. We'll get there. 9 years. I have plenty of time.
One step at a time.
Plenty of time.
So Path U, the financial literacy, that is, we've launched, but not officially launched. And so we're still honestly kind of finding a couple other team members that will help on the kind of content creation side to help get some more stuff out. But the whole idea is we want to help as many high school and college kids understand how money works and not make stupid decisions early. And so, yeah, we're going after that. It's going to be a ton of fun. So there's probably a lot of people in here who could actually help me with that as well. So let's chat.
And that you probably could help also. They probably don't know a lot about money.
I'm happy to answer whatever questions I can.
I've learned a whole lot sitting next to this guy.
So
I'm a multi-thousandaire. Thanks to him.
So yeah, Path U will be fun. Nitty gritty. We're gonna transition to seasons because we enjoy taking breaks, but we also really miss it, and so we don't want to stop. But we are gonna need to hire someone to help schedule guests. What's funny? That's the hardest thing about it is scheduling guests. If someone would schedule a guest so we just showed up and talked to him, we'd have 900 episodes. But we both suck at scheduling and coordinating all of that stuff. And when you have both of us plus a guest and you have to be in the same room at the same time, if it's not the first guest, it's oh, this is getting really hard. Let's talk again in 2 months and let's see if it's easier then.
We did just cancel a guest for the third time.
So we're gonna roll out. We're in the process of scheduling our third season. I guess we can call it our third season. And we're gonna rock. It's gonna be fun. We have some really fun guests that are committed to coming on. And what's interesting too is as we've done it, there's not a single person that I don't feel comfortable asking them to come on. I got in touch with Rudy Gobert. I'm a huge jazz fan. So now Rudy and I are texting, and when he comes back from Europe, we're gonna get together and jam on a podcast, right? We had Governor Cox come on right after. I called him Spence. I called Governor Cox Spence.
That's right.
And but there's all of these kinds of people, and we're always looking for fun stories. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to be an influencer. If you have a fun story, come and jam. We can have a fun time.
I love it. I love it. So when should we expect season 3?
Listen, we don't do well with accountability.
Okay, great. That's okay. That's
I'm just
fine.
kidding.
It's okay. I'll text you later and help you
I think
nail
we'll
down
start
a date.
next month probably. We'll get going again. Next month or 2, 3.
By
4.
the end of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. End of 22.
Right.
2022.
Since we have 10 guest scheduled, we'll
Season
start.
3 coming for you. Wonderful. You guys, we are going to open it up for audience questions. So if you have a question, please shoot your hand up in the air. We will run a microphone to you, and the floor is yours.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Imagine you're in a therapist's chair. Have you been to a therapist before? Close your eyes.
Tons of times.
We're on a
Absolutely.
comfy chair.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear the
They're
marriage
basically
problem
with
thing?
one now.
This is a 2-part question, but you only have to answer the last question.
So why is there 2 parts?
Yeah, let's just
Because
skip
it's going to
that
set the
part.
stage.
Okay.
Okay.
This is exciting.
What would life look like if you had already achieved what you wanted? Okay, think about that. What would life look like if you already achieved what you wanted?
It wouldn't look any different than it does now.
But the precursor is how have your priorities changed since you started?
Are you a therapist? I want you to be my therapist. Just the way you talk is great.
Now, this can be anything. This can be spiritual. It can be physical. It can be mental. Anything.
So I will say this may sound, call it whatever you want. I genuinely am living my dream. I wouldn't change a single thing about the life that I'm currently living. With that said, that doesn't mean I'm not working to accomplish other things. And so the second part of your question was, remind me, what was it?
How have your
How have
priorities
priorities
changed?
Priorities change. I don't know that they change as much as they just evolve. And so as my kids get older, my time, my goals change as a business, whether you're, in an established business or a startup. I think my priorities just kind of evolve based off of what I'm currently looking at. Is that a fair answer?
No. Scapegoat answer. Dig deeper. The priorities that you evolve and change. Similar
My priorities
things,
now
same
is,
things.
it's all about family. Like, how do I
Great.
How
That's
do I
good.
develop my kids into the people that I want them to be, and how do I
Right.
not screw up their life as much as possible?
And I love what you said about greatness. Is your goal through life with all of this? I mean, your vehicle is your business, but from what you've read, you want to help other people become great.
That's right. If you help enough other people get what they want, you naturally will get what you want.
Yeah, I don't think I need to be better at learning how to celebrate the way things are for me, because I wouldn't change it. I love that I don't have too many places that I have to be. I kind of love that I have the freedom to kind of do what I want to do. As far as priorities go, that one's a hard one. The only thing I can really answer that with is it's kind of mirrors Andrew's answer, is when I'm not around my family, and it didn't used to be like this. I used to be the classic, like, stay at work a little longer because I wasn't ready for chaos of home. It's the opposite now. Like, when I'm not around my family, I get like, I miss them. Like, I want to just be at home, even if there's nothing to do. And so that's probably the part that I'm enjoying the most, and that I don't want to change. I don't want. So if I do anything else with Bam Bams or whatever else, it worries me. If I open another one, it's like, hey, what if that first 2 years of the second one is like the first 2 years of this one, where like I'm just never at home, and it's like, I don't want to do that. And so, but yeah, I mean, as far as me personally, health is a big one. Like, where I'm not shaking and moving. I had a knee surgery this year, and it's just taken its sweet time to heal. And so health is a big one for me. Like, I miss ballet. Did I put that in my bio? None of my tights fit anymore.
She can't even look at you. She can't even look at you.
I made you laugh hard twice.
I almost cried earlier, and like the tears.
But no, like I am an active person. I play hockey. I love pickleball. Like I
You
haven't
just
been able
bowled
to-
a 700.
I did just bowl. So I bowl in 2 leagues, just so everybody knows. I have 5 of my very own balls, and I bowled the 700. That's 3 games, just for you mathematicians out there. 700 is a big deal. So thank you, Andrew. They're not very impressed, but yeah. So for me, it's really just maintaining what I have now and learning to be content with that and happy with that. But it's physical health for me now. I think that's probably my number 1 goal from here on out.
Last thing is finding your non-negotiables. So priorities change. Is my non-negotiables become less and less negotiable, right? So if it's my kids, if it's family time, whatever it is, like I don't care what the opportunity is, I just say no. Got it.
All right. My question is, how have we not addressed the surviving a bullet? Like, what's the story behind that?
So there's this podcast called Nitty Gritty. In one of the very first episodes, Cam
Number 2.
finds out about that.
I had no idea. How long were we brother-in-laws at that point?
Long time.
Yeah, like 13 years,
Uh-huh.
14 years. And yeah, so the first episode is Andrew interviewing me. The second episode is me interviewing Andrew. And I had never heard that story. I was just floored.
So really quick, I was in 8th grade, and you know those old pellet guns that you had to pump, right? So it sounds way cooler than it is, but that's why you just leave it as like Gunshot Survivor. But it was one of those pellet guns. It was like the pointy pellets. So behind my house there was a big field, and I could hear a pheasant. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go kill a pheasant. So I loaded the pellet gun. I pumped it like I think it was like 15 or like as many times as I could. And I was out hunting. I'm not a good hunter, so I didn't find it. And so I went back to the house because I was hungry. And I just left the gun loaded by the door. And I was eating, and all of a sudden I heard the gun go off. And I flip around, and my younger brother is standing there like this, like pointing the gun at me. And as soon as I see that, all of a sudden I like feel this shooting pain in my shoulder, and like grab my shoulder and pull it out, and it's just like covered in blood. I was like, anyway, so it hit my shoulder blade and traveled all the way across my back and ended up a 1/16 of a millimeter away from my spinal cord. So it was super close to being paralyzed from the neck down. But now I'm fine. And I don't have that pellet gun anymore.
Hi, I have a question that someone asked me, and it helped me solve so many problems. So I'm putting you on the spot with that. Is if you had a magic wand, and you could only solve like what pain point you're dealing with right now, and that could just be solved, what would it be? Make sure I'm asking that right? Because when someone asked me that, I was like, oh, wow.
Business or
I want
personal?
to solve this, and it happened.
Right.
So,
Yeah, business or personal?
no, we're here for business.
Business,
Thanks.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's 2. Can I have 2 magic wands?
You have 2 hands.
No, staffing, like not even a question. And that's a hard one because I can't really solve it. You know what I mean? I mean, I can, but it's one of those problems. My 2 biggest struggles right now are food prices and staffing. And both of those things food prices are very out of your control. Staffing is some part of it I have control of, but it's really hard to find people that want to work right now. And so if I had a magic wand, that would be the one for sure.
So personally, if I could wave a magic wand, what would help my business the most, essentially? Is that what problem? My hate of social media. I hate it. And if I was really good at it, my business would be awesome. This new financial literacy, because it's all going to be social driven, because that's where all the kids live. TikTok. I mean, the numbers are scary. Like almost 90% of high school kids go to TikTok to learn financial and to get investment advice, as opposed to asking a mom or a dad or someone who knows what they're talking about. And so,
And you can't be on TikTok giving financial advice if you're licensed to do so, correct?
that's right. That's why I had to sell my business so I could try and step into that world. But man, I hate it.
Crazy,
And so
right?
that would be my magic wand I would wave, is I enjoy doing it, and I was really good at it because it would help so much. That's what we're trying.
I have a saying that I like to use, when enough is enough, you've arrived. And I think you guys personify that. I think you
thank
have
you
enough.
so much.
You've arrived. There's always more, but there's that. But I have a question. Have you thought about monetizing the podcast and then maybe hiring a secretary or somebody that can handle, a lot of the day-to-day things so that the ADHD doesn't get in the way? And you can just, let them kind of run the podcast and you come and meet when you're supposed to.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot, but again, it's hard to find. We've had a couple people that have started and then just kind of left really quick. So it's hard to find somebody that, it's a hard thing to do, to find somebody that just does that, because where we don't really make money doing it, although we should, it's hard to offer somebody a job that, it's almost like we have to team it up with other things. So we've talked about having somebody that can kind of work at Bam Bam's, help him with his stuff, kind of have a fluid type of job. But yeah, that's the goal. Somebody that could do social media and help with our scheduling. But you also need a producer, right? You need somebody that knows how to do the editing, especially with me on the show. Editing is very important. So yeah, it's the thought's there. It's just executing.
So I think about that a lot, and it's actually been really hard for me not to. There's been times where I get really frustrated because we're not monetizing it. I'm like, this is really stupid. I get really mad that we're not, but then I kind of have to go back to why we're doing it. Easy, but yes, we would love to have an excuse to do it more and more because we were actually making money at it. But yeah, it's just a person thing, and neither of us have been willing to invest the time in finding that right person, because it would be really easy. It's not super difficult, honestly. We just haven't done it.
All right.
So if you want to do it, you let me know.
We have time for one more question.
Cameron, Andrew, love it. You guys are amazing. And you've got this super successful podcast going. So for those in the audience that are looking to start their own or that are looking to grow theirs, what tip or advice would you give them that's the best thing for them to do?
Press record. Just do it. But if you do it, be willing to do it. Know that, commit to it and know why you're doing it. So if you're doing it because you want to make money, know that up front. If you're pushing someone to a business, know why you're doing it, because that's what's going to make you press record over and over and over and over again. Because the only reason we have the listeners we do, outside of our guests being really awesome, is just because we show up. And so if you're going to do it, it's really not hard. It's not scary. It's not expensive. I have people call me all the time oh, I heard it was going to cost $10,000 to start a podcast. And I was like, we started ours and we bought nice equipment for $1,000. Everything. That was 4 microphones, 4 everything, right, for under $1,000. And so there's a lot cheaper ways even than that to do it. And so don't be scared of it, and know you're going to suck and you're going to get better. And that's okay. Just when you're starting out with anything, those first episodes, you'll listen. And not that we've gotten better, but those first ones were kind of rough.
Yeah, they were rough. Well, and I would say, to add to that, do it for you. Yeah. I think with a podcast, who do you want to talk to? What do you want to learn? And again, it's just it's the same concept of what we've been talking about with our businesses. It's most of us would do it for free. And so for us, it's if you're doing it for you and you're talking to people that you want to talk to, and that energy is there and that love of it is there and that excitement is there, that will be contagious and people will hear that and they will want to be a part of it. And so if you try to make money at it, it's not going to work. That has to organically come. I read something about Joe Rogan, how long he went before, I still think it's pretty obvious that Joe Rogan does not give a crap about. He wants to talk to who he wants to talk to, and if you're into it, great. If you're not, he does not give a damn. And I mean, look where he is now. I mean, it's probably probably the single most influential media personality in the country right now. And so,
like 2 billion downloads last month.
Yeah. So, do it for you. Do it for fun. Do it because you love it, and do it because you want to create relationships and meet awesome people and learn from them. And the rest will come when you hire a intern to do social media and somebody to help you with scheduling.
Great answers. Thank you.
Thanks, AJ.
Andrew, Cameron, thank you both so much. We have some presents for you.
Thank you.